Hi, welcome to the TechHub.training solution video for Challenge 115, Logical Functions for Car Buying within the Alteryx environment. In this video, I will cover some of the different preparation tools in Alteryx's tool library. If you have not reached your own solution, I encourage you to do so before continuing. But if you're struggling, I hope that this will be a good help and guide for you. After you reach a solution, I also encourage you to post it in the comments below so that you can contribute to the community and we can learn together. So going into it, here's my Alteryx workflow that I have created to reach this solution. The most important things in creating Alteryx workflows is first understanding the instructions that you are given and the solution you're trying to reach, and also the data that you are working with. If you don't understand your data, then you're going to have a hard time building the workflow with the correct tools. So first things first, we need to understand the data that we are given, and in our data source here, we see by putting in this input data tool that there's a lot of different information and specifications about cars. Their make and model, how many sales they have, what type it is, and a lot of different other statistics like horsepower, wheelbase, fuel efficiency, and the like. If we scroll over, we'll see that there are a lot of different null values in these columns, and that's because they each coincide with the instructions that we have. So you see in step 1, it says in the fuel efficient true-false column, that's this column here. So we're going to modify our data using different tools so that these columns are filled with data and we can use it to ultimately select a car that we think would be our best fit according to our different constraints that we have set on us. So after we input it, we're going to do a data cleanse, which I like to do to replace those no values so that it's more easy to work with, because it gets rid of a lot of trailing white space, leading white space, and null values. And some formulas don't function correctly if the cells are null. So you're just going to make sure that these replace null columns are checked off. Next is the select tool, which helps us select different columns. And you might see when you first load in this that all of these different columns that we have for the instruction steps will load in as double types or different numbers. And you also might see that in the instructions, almost none of them are going to return just a number. They will all have different words or sentences or characters, and for the different formulas to work, they can't have only number values or they just won't work correctly. So I would change this first one to a Boolean value, and I'll get into what that is, and all the other ones into strings. I also checked off these two, one because this is a column that is irrelevant, and then favorite car because I wanted to do it in Alteryx itself instead of creating a column. So first, we're going to look at this formula tool. And we know that step 1 asks us to use a logical function to determine whether a car is fuel efficient. And so it will be based on this fuel efficiency column. And we will say that if it's greater than or equal to 28, it'll evaluate to true. Otherwise, it'll be false. And so Boolean will only ever return true or false. And so if it's above 28, it'll be true, and we can see that happens here in the fuel efficient column. 28 true, 25 false. Now, all of the different steps have their own formulas here, but they could also just be in one formula tool using this plus arrow and drop down. So I modeled that with just step 1 and 2 so it was more clear. Next, we have an if statement. And you'll see it says if fuel efficient, so that's a Boolean column. Most of these I'll show you how it references the other columns or how to use this if statement. But you'll say if a certain condition is true, similar to a Boolean, then you can return a certain thing instead of just true or false. So we'll say it's efficient if it is true, and if it's false, it'll be inefficient. And we can see that here in the fuel efficient column. Since those are kind of similar, I wanted to lump them and also show you how they can be all in one tool. The nice thing about Alteryx is that if you know a function you want to use, it'll give you the syntax that you want. And also if you hover, it'll explain what that function does. So Alteryx is very user-friendly in that regard. Moving on to step 3, is it affordable? So this is similar to an if statement, but it can include multiple conditions in different steps, depending on what values you're checking. And so if, which we already learned, and it'll end with end if, which is the same, but we also have else if, and so that'll give us another condition. So if it's above our price window in the price in thousands, like our budget that we set, then we will say that it is expensive. If it's 0, meaning that it was never put, that was a null value originally. We can see it if we scroll over to price in thousands. Here's one that was null, and we replaced it with 0 in the data cleansing. Then it will return NA, because we don't know the price, and otherwise we'll say it's affordable, meaning it's less than 17, equal to or less than 17, and greater than 0. Next step we have is to figure out if these first 3 steps actually are both true. And so this will use an AND statement, which is an operator that helps us like use multiple conditions in a single if statement. Otherwise, or in other words, both statements need to be true. So we see here, is it fuel efficient, which we made in step 1, and step 3, is it affordable? And we'll say, is it affordable, column equals affordable. And if it's true, we'll say great choice. Otherwise, we'll say needs some work. And we'll end if just the same. And so we can see that here in this column. And we have a few great choices showing up. Next is step 5. And this is just like the step 3, where we have else if, except it's a lot more. And you can put in as many of these as you want, as long as none of the conditions that you put in overlap. So all of those are given to us in the little table. It says if it's blank, then return NA. If price is greater than 20, say no chance, etc., etc. One thing to note is that you don't have to put in else if for every single one, because you're going to have an else at the end anyways. So we can say anything that is less than 10, less than or equal to 10, because that's our last one here, will always return is this newer used. And that saves us some space in saying, another else if, because we're going to end it in else anyways. Step 6 is just like step 5, multiple else ifs, and we're given a table for that one as well. Step 7 is the further analysis column, and that one is based on our own interpretation of what we want. And so just to keep things simple, I said, let's just see if the manufacturer is, the manufacturer is Honda. Well, we want a Honda car. And so that populated our final column, which is further analysis. Next is the tool called a filter, and you can create custom filters. And we're told that in step 8, we want to have only the cars that say great choice. So you can use the basic filter and say fuel efficient and it's not fuel efficient. It's the, what's it called? Fuel efficient and within budget equals great choice. And so what that does after running is it'll separate all the false records from the true records. And there's 18 great choice cars. After that, we'll sort so that it's more clear based on price range what, because they're all great choices, but we want to know which is the cheapest and which is the most expensive. And then after that, which is still part of step 8 technically, I said, okay, let's say that our further analysis equals true, because when we created that further analysis column, we said if it's a Honda, then say it's true, and otherwise say it's false. And so it'll say true in this further analysis column and filter out all the other ones that don't. And then I selected only manufacturer and model, and we see when we select this browse that Honda Civic is the one that fits all of these criteria and our filters that we inputted. So that is the solution when you're following every step if you want to put each one into its own formula. However, that is just one solution, and I'm sure you could come up with more of your own. I came up with one other one, and it's just a quick way of combining all of the steps into one based on what our price budget is, being below 16,000. Our fuel efficiency, we want more than 30 miles per gallon, and we want our manufacturer to be Honda. This goes back to me showing you this AND statement in step 4. And so this filter combines that in the custom so that if all of these things are true, then it will give us this output on true. And then the same thing is over here, select the make and model, and we get our Honda Civic. Just the same way as the other one. And so these are 2 solutions, and I hope that this video has been helpful to you. And if you have your own solutions, make sure that you post it in the comments so that we can see the work that you've done. Thank you.